All right, you got Andrew Carlton here, from RSU 18. Hold on, I gotta let these two in. I'm it. And Sue. All right, they're muted. Hi. You don't sound well. So we're just gonna talk 15, 20 minutes just about what the outlook of the budget looks like for RSU 18, and then we'll take some questions.
Do we have any budget committee members? We
do. We have Sue Lee, council member, and Rick McKenzie. Yeah, so hold your questions till the end. I do have a few things to go over after Andrew's done, and then we'll continue on.
Well, hi everybody. How are you? Welcome to this Tuesday night. With the snow we had yesterday, I was just saying to Tina, that's arguably one of the worst parts of my job, trying to figure out what we're going to do with the school day. You know, on one hand, we've got some of the best bus drivers in the world. On the other hand, everybody else kind of struggles to drive sometimes. So it's really one of those things where it's tough, and I'm always armchair quarterback. So, but it's Tuesday and sunshine this day, so that's what I mean. So just kind of a little bit about me first. So I've been in the district now since July. I have to tell you, having worked in multiple school districts, and actually I was in Waterville last year as a special ed director. Year prior to the 2 years prior to that, I spent as the city manager in Garden, which was a pretty amazing experience. I'll be honest with you. I'd been the superintendent in RSU4, which is Litchfield, Sabattis, and Wales, and decided I needed a break and wanted to do something different. So I went to city government, which was an eye-opening experience. I will tell you, I absolutely loved it. It was. I learned a lot about municipal budgeting. I learned a lot about, and Gardner's a little different. It's a city council, so they don't have a budget committee. You prepare a budget, it goes to the council approves it. There's no town meeting or anything like that. But I learned a lot about TIF districts and, incentive financing and all those kind of things. I'm really thankful that I did that because it was such a learning experience for me. Gardner is a big, small city. It's 7,000 residents. A lot of people think it's huge, but it's not. It's very similar to Oakland. Police department, regional ambulance service. That was interesting. I also had a wastewater treatment plant. At one point, I was city manager, wastewater director, and public works director. And we actually, our chief of police retired. I wasn't certified to do that, or I'm chief of police. So it was really good. I like to talk to people about, we're pretty lucky in schools, and if municipalities have it harder. I said to a friend of mine who's a superintendent the other day who was complaining about money, I said, well, go work in a municipality and then you'll know. I like to tell the story of, I think I'd been on the job in Gardner for about a month, and we lost the turbo in a truck. And it was near the end of the fiscal year. I wasn't sure how we were going to pay for it. I'll be honest. And so, it's just kind of it's a different world. And so now, having been on that side, I always had a huge, believe in the collaboration between municipalities and school districts, but now I have a higher belief in that just because I think it's so. On the flip side of that, I did 3 years on the budget committee at Fairfield. So thank you for that work, because it's not simple. It's always hard. I was saying to Kelly when we did it in Fairfield, we get together on a Saturday and spend all day on a Saturday going through the budget with department heads. It was, you left on Saturday night with your head just, so it's looking at RSU 18, I would say, having worked in now 5 school districts, RSU 18 is a pretty amazing place. Just the high level of education that is provided to our students. If you look at our student data, it's some of the best around. With our student outcomes, they're some of the best around. We have fantastic educators. You know, and I say this, and I know Tina and Angela and Mike have heard me say this. Everybody who works in a school district is an educator. Every single person, regardless of the position that they have, affects the lives of the education of a child. They just do. I don't care what it is, you contribute to the education of the child. So, you know, we've got some pretty amazing staff in our SUA team. You know, I hired a company recently to come in to do a couple of things at Williams, and I've worked with the company before. And Williams Elementary School was a 100-year-old building, and they just couldn't believe at how well maintained Williams Elementary School was. So that's a credit, you know, to the school district. It's a credit to the communities about making sure investing in education and investing in buildings and their facilities is important. You know, having done a stint on the school board in a neighboring school district when we were talking about not doing facility maintenance to try to get on the school list, my response was that's educational malpractice. We deserve to make sure we put our students and our staff in buildings that are safe and healthy. And this district has done that. So it's really a credit to the communities and support. I say this, I think some of you might have heard me say it before, you know, we're a $45 million company that makes no money. They exist in the pockets of taxpayers and our outcomes kids. And so it's really, really important that we're transparent with how we spend the money, what we need the money for, and what our goals are as we move forward. You know, my big things always are take care of our staff, take care of our facilities so that our staff take care of kids, educate our kids, and we're going to do that in as fiscally responsible as we possibly can be. You know, being a taxpayer myself, I am always concerned about that. I know that the majority of your tax dollars goes towards school. It just does. And that's unfortunately the way the state of Maine has decided to do that. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with it, but that is the model that we have. So as far as the FY27 budget, I take a step backwards. This will be my first budget for the school district. Last year, we just completed the audit presentation. If you want to see it, it'll be online after next meeting. We did have the auditor in. Last year, we ran 99.8 or 99.7% efficient. And so what that means is that as far as our budgeted expenditures, we were at 99.8%. In a $45 million change budget, that's pretty unbelievable. It means two things. A, we're making sure that we're budgeting appropriately. B, we're being cognizant of how we're spending. So, you know, that being said, coming into my first budget, we're just about done. I'm just about done putting it together. I'll actually make a full budget presentation to the school board next week. One thing I have presented to the board is the operational side of that. So there's kind of two pieces to the expenditure side. There's the salary and benefits, which make up 78 roughly percent of the budget. And then there's the operational side. So salary and benefits are controlled realistically, most of it by our collective bargaining agreements. We have 4 collective bargaining agreements in the district. And we actually just finished one and are about to finish the second one. It went really well. I was happy about that. We did it without representation on either side. I think that's the way that should be. Working together for a common goal. So the budget, 78% salary and benefits, 22-ish% ratio. So the reality is the 78% is pretty much controlled by our collective bargaining agreements. The 22% we control. And so my big goal was to come in with an operational budget, piece of the budget that was strong. And so what we did was we looked at year-over-year expenditures. You know, I've worked in other places. I won't say where. You can look my history up if you want to, but I don't want to talk badly about anywhere else. But a lot of places, they take a look year over year. They take the budget they had last year, and then they put it on paper, and then they look at where they overspent and lines they overspent, and they add money to those places. That is not what we did. We took a hard look at each individual line. I have to credit our administrators. I've been prepping them for the last, well, ever since I got here, realistically, that, you know, budgets are tough right now. People are strapped, and we've got to make sure that we're very, you know, budgeting appropriately and taking a hard look at each individual line. So we did that. We looked at each individual line and said, okay, So this is a line, we looked at 3 or 4 years worth of expenditures. This is a line that traditionally we have underspent. And so we took that and we moved it to lines where we had traditionally overspent. Then we looked at those lines where we had always underspent and didn't necessarily need what we had there to try to come to a budget that piece of the budget that wasn't increased. So what I presented to the board, the last meeting, I think it's in early February, losing track of days today. The operational side of the budget would be down $103,000. So we worked really hard to get there. I think, things like plowing, we've got some pretty good data now on that. We're able to make some shifts there. As far as salary and benefits are concerned, still working on that piece of it. The last piece I'm looking at is health insurance. I currently have health insurance budgeted at 10%. I don't know what that's going to look like. I will say, looking historically at health insurance last year, for instance, the district saw a 12% increase in health insurance. And that was astronomical.
Do you still use main school management?
Yes, yep, the benefits trust. Yeah. So, a lot of there are two things that factor into our health insurance rates. One is what it costs, right? Well, one is how much money the benefits trust puts in to kind of subsidize it, but also what our usage modifier is, so our lost profit modifier. We, over the last few years, have been running at 108 to 112%. So what that means is what we were paying in, we were actually spending in claims 112%. That doesn't help you when it comes to what you pay for health insurance, right? I will say we got our final year-end numbers. We were 97% this year. So I think that's a win. I don't know what that will look like. In my mind, my mind says, well, that should tell us we should be at 0. It's probably not the way it's going to be, but if we can come in less than 10, I'll be able to alter some things. So I can't kind of give you the final numbers at this point. I've got to get them together for the board next week. But like I said, our biggest goal with what we actually control outside of that 78% was to keep it flat. We were able to drop it 103,000. And part of that was I looked at that 99.8%, the efficiency that we've been at, and that's about $130,000 we underspent by. That's about what I took the budget down on that side. Now, I'll be honest with you, the salary benefit side is not going down. It's just not. Yeah, it's just not. And so, consequently, we have contracted raises that are coming in. We're over 720 staff members. The enrollment has stayed pretty steady. We're one of the few local school districts over the last few years where enrollment has stayed pretty steady. We are a very desirable school district. I think you probably know this. Sydney is one of the largest growing towns in or the quickest growing town in Kennebec County. The Bean School's up over 300 students at this point. She's there every day. And so, our enrollments, I'm going to leverage our superintendent's agreements to some degree. We get a reimbursement on the backside for that. But I will tell you, I have a ton of people. I was shocked, coming in July. People want to come to our team. So my response is, well, you should buy property here. But at the same time, you do have students on superintendent's agreements, but we are, like I said, our enrollment is staying pretty steady. And it's good that, we're always looking at ways we could save. I think the district has done some really smart things. Case in point, the biomass plant that sits down at transportation. If you've never seen it, you should. Give me a call. I'd love to take you in. We save close to $100,000 a year by burning wood chips versus number 2 fuel. We're talking about another project like that potentially in China. Some of you may have seen the paper. I put out an RFQ recently for an ESCO firm to look at performance contracting. It's a way to leverage energy savings to do energy-based projects, things like boiler plants, lights and windows, things like that. So we'll put an RFQ for that. That's due, I think, a week from Monday. It's a week from Monday. So we'll pick a firm to work with us. Trying to leverage programs to get work done. So if you think about biomass construction right now, Efficiency Maine is paying 35% of those projects. So you put in a solid fuel project, they'll pick up 35% of the cost. And then on the backside of that, you can get net energy credits towards power bills. The district's done a great thing with the hydro contract. That's all it's hydro. We're buying dollars worth of credits at 87.5 cents that we then apply to the power bills. I think last year saved about $40,000 there. Really trying to find ways to leverage other funds so it doesn't affect the overall budget. It's that one-time project, right? When I first came on, when they came on in July, I may have noticed, may not have lost the chiller at the middle school. It's a $260,000 project. We don't have that in the budget. Luckily, we had contingency funds to spend there so that project didn't affect next year's budget. Because if we hadn't had those, I would have had to put that project in the budget. We might have spread it over a few years, but it still would have affected the budget. So trying really hard to do those kind of things with those funds. So again, I don't know where the impact is going to be land to middle of next week. I will say that 279 came out. If you're not familiar with ED 279, it's the state essential programs funding survey model. So it's a funding model by which the state funds schools. It is a very heavily valuation based model. Not sure how to change it. I know that NEPRI, which is the main educational policy research institute, is recommending some changes that I think actually can help us. We're a 47% receiver from the state, which isn't that high. That's based basically on our valuations. You know, if you look at our neighbors, Waterville's a 70% receiver, MS 49 is 67% receiver, Skowhegan is 60-something% receiver. We're at 47%. I think looking at, can't remember the number off the top of my head, we're about 46 next year. You know, I read in the paper that the governor had made a big pitch that she was rolling a bunch of money into the formula. That equated to about $60,000 for us. So not that really doesn't have much of an impact. I mean, it does. It's more money, but it's not a lot. Beyond that, though, we did drop the mill cap. The mill cap is really so, you know, there's two sides to state funding. There's the required local share and the state share. So the required local share is the share that the towns must pay to get the state share. They drop the mill cap on the required local share, which is always interesting when they do that. Your hope is that if they drop the mill cap, they put more money in the state share. Well, they dropped the mill cap, but the valuations went through the roof. They're up again. My hope is that this is the last year of that high level valuation adjustment. So, you know, the required local share went up over $1 million. So you're basically the towns are going to be paying $1 million more to get 60,000 more. It doesn't that doesn't make to me. But there you go. So, you know, overall, I promise you, I said this in Belgrade recently, and I'll say it to you, I promise you that when I bring you a budget, that is the budget we need, not the budget we want. There's always wants, and it's really breaking down the need versus want. I don't want a budget to affect the education that we're providing, because I will tell you, I have children in other school districts, and they've done fabulous. We provide that education. But at the same time, I also want to be cognizant of the taxpayers. That's kind of where we're at in the budget process. I'm happy to answer questions if I can.
Does anybody have any questions?
You said something about attendance, and it was running about the same.
Yeah,
What is rough thing?
we're around subsidizable pupil count. We're a shade under 2,700, 2,654, I think is the number. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it? No more questions?
Happy to try.
Questions.
You know, you have a ratio of what your school teachers are at the high school to students,
Not on me, but I can get it.
ballpark.
Yeah. Well, No, I don't even have that off the top of my head.
Okay, you know.
Yeah, yeah, so looking at, numbers wise, I think programming wise, we're about right. If you look at, I could pull up EPS, I think we're at like 91% on EPS, which tells us we're about at the right number. I don't look at EPS as a staffing formula, but sometimes it's good to look at those numbers just to kind of get a feel for it. We're at 0.91, which tells me we're doing pretty well there, but I can get those numbers for you. Yeah.
That's why I was asking on that, sir, was it, for enrollments?
Yeah.
That Smithfield is looking to try to get into RF-318.
Yeah.
How would that affect us
So
financially and teacher?
So actually, and I'll be quite transparent about this, I took one phone call about this, from the town of Smithfield, which I let, the superintendent in 54 know about. It's John Moody. I think probably most of you know John. John's a good friend of mine. John and I actually grew up together. And so I did call him and let him know that I was getting a phone call. So Smithfield was looking to, potentially withdraw from MSAD 54. They have since pulled that withdrawal, so that process is dead. So, but if a town the size of Smithfield were to join the RSU, you're talking 108 students or so, pre-K to 12. It really would have an impact. Might need we probably, let's say if we're Smithfield, it's close to Belgrade, they would probably go to Belgrade Central. We might need a teacher or two at Belgrade Central, but beyond that, we really wouldn't have a problem. Financially, having another town with evaluation always helps. Specifically helps, you get some money on the state side. There's also the local petitions. But that petition was dead in the water. It never, I had a conversation with one of their select board members, and my words to him were that our local additional is significantly higher than MSAD 54s. So we're around the 8.8 million. There were 4. Reason being is we're a 46% receiver. They're a 68% receiver. So, but it would help. 100 students, we could probably absorb pretty well. Much more than that, we'd have to. That would be good. That would be so. If we had an influx of 100 students at Messalonsky High School, we would have to add staff. And if you think about that, you influx 100 students at Messalonsky High School, you're probably influxing 100 at Messalonsky Middle School, or roughly somewhere around there. So that would be a big undertaking, and I'm not sure I recommend doing that at this point. So we're numbers wise, I think we're pretty good.
I have a question.
Yes.
You explain A, B, and C.
Yes.
What it means for
So, all right, let's see. So
subsidized food.
this is we're 2619 here, but it's a 2-year average. So these are our percentage of pupils. If you look here, China, this is actually the IVF. This is they're required to pay because they have school choice.
Those are the kids that go to Erskine.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yes, they pay for, we pay the state subsidy, they pay the. So realistically, if you look here, these are your 3-year valuation numbers. So if we take a 3-year average of the state valuation of the town, so if we look at Oakland, for this, is this the current one?
It is.
It is.
907 million.
So it'll be 907 million. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was last year. Last year, the mill expectation is 6.1, 5.6. What that does is this becomes this number right here. So if you look across the board, this number right here is your mill expectation. So that filters down to here. So here you pay this. This is your required local share to get this. So the town has to pay $5,125,283 to get $6,525,600, which then creates the total number. So
And that doesn't include our additional local, which includes the middle school debt and.
Yeah, though the additional local, we don't have middle school debt, right?
Oh, we got, okay.
Yeah, so the additional local, so you take this number, this 35 million, whatever we are over and above that, that's what our additional local is.
So different from here. So this, if you can see, this is 100% based on valuation. The local additional is based 75% on valuation, 25%
Cost sharing.
cost share.
When does that come back up to vote?
Did they just do it last year or the year? It's every 5
This
years.
was on the thing for Oakland.
What's that? Well, it comes to the board first.
Right.
Yeah, and then, I can't remember what that looked like. So it starts at the board. The board makes a determination on whether there's going to be a change for that. And then the board votes on it, and then it would go to referendum. There was going to be a change. So,
We had a committee at one point when I was on it,
yeah,
when I was at Colby. And then when I was at the school working, we ran it.
ran it. Yeah, and I'll have to look to see when that was. It might have been 2 years ago that that happened. Can't remember. 75, 25, I've worked in a couple of different school districts. I've worked in a school district that was 100% valuation based. So everything in a local additional was broken up, take your total valuation and you break it up based upon that. I worked in another school district where 50% valuation, 50% student. In that situation, you had a town that had the highest valuation, but didn't have the highest student count. Whereas here, we have a town with the highest student count and another town with the highest valuation. Same kind of scenario. Whereas, like for instance, in MS 8049, Fairfield has the highest valuation and the highest student count. So, but 75-25 here, I've seen it across the board. Yes.
I'm sorry, I mean, I missed your explanation, or I don't know.
Yeah.
For what it means when you say we're 46% received.
So 46% of our revenues, so. We'll get back to that. So if you look.
We go back a page.
Yeah, if you go back to four, if you scroll down. So basically. What happens is you take the state number. Here, so that's the total allocation. So that includes both the required local share.
We'll glue it on.
So this takes required local share and the state contribution to get this number. So what this means is of this number, 46% comes from the state. Yeah. So whereas in some of our, we want a higher number if we could get it, and we'd love to, but yeah, but it's so based solely on valuation.
Is that part of the thing we're getting reassessed this year? Is that gonna change the evaluation come from that or? No?
Probably the state sets that.
The state does their own valuation, but then we have to do our own valuation.
Okay.
And then
Because you had said they kind of forced us to redo our own revaluation, so I didn't know if that was part of this. Well,
So do-
evaluation that we're doing is just like.
Who's they based on?
We haven't done it in 3 years.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
to mystery, and past assessor, she used to work in that office at the state, so
Yeah.
she knows all of that.
She sent us out a letter on what the state valued us at.
Yes.
Early during the rebail process, I don't remember the number, but it was, they valued it pretty high.
It is.
Yeah.
This is a 3-year average. Of the last 3 state valuations, that's what that number is. So actually, the valuation is higher than that, but because it's gone up every single year, it's lower than.
Right, because of the
Yeah.
course of years.
Yeah.
What is the state, consider the average cost per pupil statewide?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
It's on here, hold on.
We can get it.
It's on this.
These are our procurement manual. Go back to my HTML.
So this is what we get. It's different in every district, but this is our per pupil costs for the state side of things. So
$300.
8,300 is what we get per student for pre-K to 8. 8,800 is for pre-K to.
But they used to say the.
Average cost. Yeah, we're actually, I think we're right on the state average or a little bit lower. I have to get that number. I know, for instance, our state tuition rate used to be pretty high. It's not anymore. We're actually one of the lower around.
Should be like 11 grand.
Yeah, it's a little over 12 now, but it's smaller than most of our neighboring school districts. So
Does that mean that's what it takes to, they think it takes to educate a kid in the year? That's
this number,
that number.
yes, sort of.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does that look nationally?
I have no idea. I just wonder. Yeah, today that would be interesting. I'll get that for you because that's an interesting question. It's hard because other states fund education differently, and so trying to sort
There
out.
must be some idea what it costs to put kids who
Yeah,
set them in that school for a year.
yeah, and I actually have per pupil costs by school. That's going to be part of my budget presentation of what we're spending roughly per pupil per school.
Did any of them set up, what does it look like versus the rest of this, you know?
Oh, we're pretty much on the same.
Same.
Yeah.
Are we still looking for another SRO for next year?
So I did not put another SRO in budget. I would like to have one more. Rick and I have talked about it. At length, 4 would be the right number. I did not put one in the budget. It's on my list of things that we talked about. Didn't put it in the budget.
And it would be 100% paid by the school.
We do, and I will say this, we really appreciate the relationship we have with the town of Oakland. I think Kelly and I have talked about it before. We try to help each other out as much as we can. So we've got 3 SROs right now. 2 of them are 75-25, I believe, and one of them we pay 100%. So, and we're appreciative of that. They are a valuable resource that we have in our school district. Some people get a little nervous about SROs. I've had this conversation numerous times. Our SROs, while they're about safety in a preventative way. And they're there to be proactive, not reactive. So they're there to build relationships with kids so that when something comes up, kids come to them instead of something happening and we're having to come in on the backside. We have 3 really great SROs. I will tell you, you've got a great chief of police too. He's fantastic. I enjoy working with him. We support each other in lots of things, and it's really.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it is a good model, a very good model. So, and I know the other towns appreciate it. We're able to provide some support to the other towns, which is also a good thing. So, yes, I'd love to have it. 4 would be my number, but this was not the budget year for that.
The year for extras.
You said something very interesting a few seconds ago. You have it all figured out. What school costs you and all that, pretty roughly.
Yeah,
I have always thought, me personally, I've always thought China had been a waste of our money. And it costs the town of Oakland more money to have them, or RSU 18, to have China involved. We send 4 buses out every day at about 5 miles a gallon, plus your drivers, plus if I can put super all that out garbage, you'll be back.
yeah. I will say, if you go to page 4 on here. Interesting number. So if you look at China's $609, almost $700,000 valuation. So
We lose that money.
you lose that, and it's a significant chunk, right? So they get 8 million. We get the allocation is $8 million. 4.6 million is state share. So you would lose. Not only would you lose the 4.6, you'd lose the required local share of 3.9 million. You also lose the 4.6 million. If the valuation isn't that high, but that's the pupil count is. And go to pupil counts up here. China has 618 pupils. So losing that would be significant.
Total number of students?
In China.
No, total.
Total 12, this 2-year average 2620. Yeah. So you'd lose 620 students.
which would be significant. As far as. What was the second part of that question? There was two pieces to your question.
So we're sending, I forgot one, we're actually sending 6 buses out per day,
Per day.
per day.
Yep.
6 driving.
Yep.
So if we say China went away.
Yep.
I see what we're gonna lose, but we're also, teachers are not being paid.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think.
what's the benefit of having China? Let's go.
Well, I think, again, it's offsetting costs too, but, beyond that, you've got the student count. I don't know, but I can tell you, just thinking about numbers, per pupil costs, China, neither one of the China schools are our highest. Perfect.
That's what I,
Yeah,
that's what I was
yeah,
looking for.
neither one are.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So, we've taken a hard look at staffing numbers. The school, as far as, our classroom teachers are concerned, our schools are right at that. We're at a sweet spot number wise, where we don't have any really big classes. We don't have any really small. We've got the right number of staff. So.
Jeremy,
Is your budget, after you give it to the, school board, is that gonna be listed somewhere?
Yeah, we'll put it on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll actually, once I make my budget presentation, I'll send it to Kelly.
Okay.
Yeah.
oh, sure. Anything else? Andrew? Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you all. I
Much
appreciate it. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I want to go home and say hi to my kids.
Okay.
Great night, everybody.
You too, thank you.
You guys hear okay?
The signals don't work anyway, doesn't
Kelly, I can hear fine, but I wasn't able to see his screen at all. Would we be able to get a printout of that?
Email, it was my screen. I can just send you the ED 279 off the main Department of Education site. So I can do that.
Thank you.
Welcome. I'll send it to everybody. I'll download it. So just a few things that comes about in the last last time we were together. The flower committee would like to ask for a little bit more money. They're asking for $4,000. And I'm pretty sure I put that in already. Are we okay with that? Well,
I can't remember how much it was above what they asked for, a couple.
it's like they were 3288 is what, so $700.
Okay.
They have dipped it, they always spend over every year, the 3288, and then we have to dip into their donation funds to make up for their overage, so. Or AJ's budget needs it. Either one, but. So the 400, the 4,000, and then. I think Dana had asked, when the library spoke. About the boilers in the library. Currently, they have 2 peerless cast iron boilers. One's from 1998, so it's 28 years old. The other's 2004, which is 22 years old. They have a 45 to 50 year life expectancy, but after 30 years, the efficiency starts to decline. It would be $10,000 to $12,000 to replace each boiler. Because we had talked about, they had some issues last year. And probably gonna buy some heat pumps with it. With the Carnegie money that they received. So they won't be replacing the coolers on the chillers on the roof. But I think for our capital improvement projection, we should put this in, maybe do one in, 3 years and then do another one. So AJ had gotten that information together for us. Rick is sick. So he will present next Tuesday. I did send out the
kind of Cheryl and Rick worked on this. So to add another officer, it's not a cost saving. Yes, we would save on overtime, about $44,000. That's just projected on, 1 8-hour shift to cover Tiffany. And then whatever Tiffany is doing in addition to her 40 hours, so, I mean, Rick has some statistics, he has some information that he wants to present to you guys, so we'll let him go over this next week. On the revenue side, our revenue sharing, so that's, awesome. Not as much as I wanted, because I did have 900,000 in there. And it's now 911,377, so, but it's up from last year, so. That's good. The 845 to 911. Yeah, just. Thoughts, changes. Anybody wants to make, now's the time where we can. Do things to the budget, I mean, overall. If we didn't have to worry about this. Reserve that we've used in the past. We'd be looking at a 0.77% increase, $38,000. That's pretty good. But we have to make up. What we can't put in from last year is.
Remind me what they're going to use the Carnegie funds to purchase.
They think, and they're probably get council approval on this, but they think it's gonna be heat pumps or upstairs.
Is that going to reduce the usage of the two boilers?
Yes, so then her number 2 fuel will go down. Probably.
I think maybe the boilers can struggle along for another year.
Yeah, this is like a capital equipment projection type scenario. That maybe we'll put half away next year, put $5,000 in and $5,000 the next year, and then replace it the year after.
And I think as a courtesy to Rick, we should let him come make his presentation, although it doesn't look good to me again this year.
But at least we can get the information out there, we can start thinking about it, talking about it, and next year. Do you have a question?
So we just talked about things in general now, is that sort of?
Yes.
That, right. So I did have a question, I have a couple of things I wanted to ask about.
Sure.
One is, Diana, reason for asking about this place where we have,
Reserve money.
funds.
Yep.
And also the truck funds. Because I was looking at the numbers there, and I don't, is there any reason we don't invest those in some sort of an actual investment that can make money, whether if they're not sitting in a 1% savings account, it is ridiculous money on emotions.
Some of the trust funds, some of them are cash based, but some of them are invested in Camden Wealth Management and government bonds.
Yeah, which don't pay very much, obviously, because the interest we're getting on that it doesn't hardly but the ratio. So my question would
But
be,
we can't play the stock market.
why not? Why can't we invest in something like a Fortune 500 fund?
We just never have, and I think it's in our investing policy that we have
Well,
to save.
I understand that. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely ridiculous. We have all this money sitting here to get some.
$1,500.
$450 off 54,000. Yeah, that's not even inflation. I mean, I think we have some monies here that. You don't have to go great and invest in stupid things, but there's a lot better investments to make than this. And I think when we're seeing, I would say the same thing in our reserve funds. This, I think we should consider looking at ways to invest what we have in a way to bring some more money in on that money. A lot of, if you look at like the Fortune 500, fund where they didn't invest across more than Fortune 500 companies. I just happened to be in that. So I've seen it because our 401k at Togus is where I work is invested in it. So they put those types of things in there and it's done exceedingly well over the years. Love 10%. So, when as I listen to the presentations of all of us, maybe it's hard for me to say that any could look excessive. I mean, everybody seems to have very reasonable budgets, and yet, our budget's going up considerably every single year. So we have a couple of options. We can just keep taxing people more, or we can try and find ways to generate more money with what we do get. Yeah, it isn't necessarily huge, but it starts to add up after a while. And I would think that I would look for some ideas from folks to,
Yeah, we
There's some-
usually meet with our Camden Wealth team, April.
we give them some money to invest our money.
We don't give them anything, they take a fee off the investments quarterly, it's minimal.
I was asking to be very conservative and not do anything, but would be interesting to see if we couldn't improve that. It looks to me like on the reserve funds that we have here for the town of Oakland, I haven't added it, I think there's quite a bit there.
Yeah,
It would seem, would it make any sense, like, would it be worth discussion to pool all that money into some sort of a big fund where it's all in there, keep track of where it belongs, but try to do a little better.
I had looked at a money market. 4 years ago. Put it in,
Either those or 4% or.
yeah,
Which I don't know what we're getting at. It's better, well, it's better, but I think we can do a lot better. I really think it's time to be smart, outside the box a little bit. We have quite a bit of money here that I don't want us to lose it, of course. But if you look at some of these funds, the average they have over 10 years or 15 years, it's very positive. It's usually 10% or better. So why wouldn't we try to find ways to be smart with what we do have and help us to offset? Because, as I said, I thought all the presentations were quite good and we have certain obligations to the town and we have to just do that. And most of these additions are quite reasonable and it's hard to come back and, so if we're gonna have to have more money, then we either have to tax more, we have to find other ways to get something. There are other ways for the town to earn more money or with what we have here.
you know, take the transfer station, for instance. All the transfer station fees for bulky and tires, we are well below all the areas.
I'm getting there. So,
We're gonna talk about that tomorrow night at council.
well, I know, and I'm not there, I hope I'm not outside of what's what we're talking about here, but it seemed to me the transfer station, I spoke to one of the people here and like $300 to $500 a year if you want to have your trash picked up, probably $15 a week to have somebody fly and pick up your trash if you're hiring service. So $30 or $40 or some number like that, to have a sticker for the dump is not unreasonable, but it would change, be a small on a percentage basis, the whole budget is huge, but you start picking up some pieces here and there, it adds up, and that would add like $45,000 from what if you went to $30 for whenever.
We talked about that at our transfer station meeting with some Joe this week.
Yeah, the other thing, so,
It wasn't, yeah.
Well, because that's a big,
well, it's a big hike, it's reasonable, I mean, our budget's a big hike, and we're about to leverage some money, strong taxes on some people in our town that aren't gonna be very happy about that either, and, we certainly, a user fee to me is like, there's a lot more reason that, forcing everybody to pay for something they don't necessarily use. So, the costs dump are not offset very well by $5 fees on the, and I know everybody's trash, I guess, ends up there, but they're almost paying double. They're being taxed for it and they're paying a pickup fee for, right, so how do we find ways to relieve people from paying things they shouldn't pay? And
subsidizing.
Yeah, I mean, um, so. You realize what it costs for people to pay for a service, then going to $30 or $40 or some number is not a big jump at all. It's just that we haven't been, and like I said, I like future fees versus tax cost board. The other thing we have some assets in our town. We have a boat landing, for example. Like, heavily used and where we can't charge on a per boat basis or anything for that, but we do have a really beautiful gazebo there, things go on there. Are there ways to have events there or do things there and make use of that and get some revenue? For the town.
They can reserve it, through the
Yeah.
town others, there's been weddings and big shower parties and whatnot, I don't think we charge enough.
Probably are.
$100.
Right. And
For the day.
is it worth it?
Yeah,
Is there a way to market it a little bit, so we let people know we have this asset that they might want to use on the waterfront? And I think we should have a little bit of an increase in rental of it, because it costs us something to maintain that property. We'll clean it up and take care of it after people use it, and it's really not that $500. So.
and we maybe reserve it. Times a year.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a lot.
But it is a nice spot. I don't think it certainly gets used well for the concert series and so forth like that. And then, what's that? And then we have this list here of people that want money from us. And, I know they're all very nice organizations, very, very nice organizations.
That's not in the budget, by the way. That got taken out last year.
Yeah,
That's just.
yeah, we don't do that.
So this is just her giving it to us so that like we can hand out to other people and let people know. So that, we don't vote on them, so that got taken out last year.
Yeah, so.
We don't do third party.
And then individual people can pay,
Right.
can give them money.
Okay.
Right, we nix
As
that.
they want.
Don't worry.
We already do.
That's, I take that off my plate. The other thing I was gonna say is that I've done a little bit, or just a little bit of research on. I know we have some big, like you said, we've discussed probably some big tax levies coming, and I made some comments on our previous meeting about what we're doing for some of our senior citizens potentially that live in homes, not just on the lake, but even in homes that are nice anywhere. And they have them. Some states and many towns freeze property taxes on folks when they reach a certain age, usually 65 or 70, somewhere in there, when they're the retirement time, for as long as that home remains with them for their lifetime. If we get transferred to someone by that, we reset the tax. But people that reach those ages often don't have much to set on additional income, and if we keep pushing the taxes up on them, I think I've had some experiences out in Belgrade too, when the taxes out there are crazy. And I think some towns see folks or businesses that come to their town as taxable objects. I would like us to think of folks that come here as citizens here that we try to take care of and not, yeah, so I just feel like maybe there should be a consideration of looking at saying that people would reach, say, age 70, they don't pay any property tax, although in some states that rule exists. You stop paying property tax on your property at a certain age. However, for example, those such folks at 2025 level, like we were last year, and let them stay there, we would an idea like that for the remainder of the time that they live in that home, if it's their primary residence. Not if their home, but it's primary residence where they live, where they exist, and that's their place. I think we should give them consideration to how do we help them not be, overly taxed as we try to meet our budget. And so doing, you would raise that and have the mill rate would come up for everybody a little bit, potentially to cover that differential, but I think it's something, and as people reach that age, or town picks.
have that information and clear out or pull that out. Like. Manipulate your report to just population, yeah, Oakland.
Makes it.
Where are you going? That's less part of that, aren't we?
Well, I think the other thing is stop is that we don't end up with a town full of out-of-state people that come here in the summertime and then just take off. They don't, they're fine, they're nice people, I'm sure, but they don't really paying their taxes, they're not really citizens here, they're vacationers here, which is fine. You know, I think we should, I would like us to be a citizen friendly town. And we'll still get understanding that by safe places, but they'll get taxed over it. But citizens should be considered differently.
I don't know of any way that a municipality can charge different property tax rates, favor any group, whether it's old people or.
It's done all the time. You can research that. It's very common across the West for property tax.
Maine, they're not
Right.
across the US, or
It's on the Maine Constitution.
as far as I know, there's no way to do that. Or
I'll research that further. Well, I'm sure you're right. I know you've been experienced in the state government.
the Maine Constitution says that all property has to be taxed the same. And that's why you can't, the state could do $25,000
The homestead exemption.
homestead. The state, should it choose to, could make homestead more for people of a certain age, or could make the homestead exemption, well, I'll leave it at that. If they wanted to exempt, they wanted to increase the homestead exemption $25,000 to $50,000 for 65-year-old and older. The state of Maine could do that.
That would help them look,
That would help.
freeze or lower their.
Yes, that would. So that would add another $25,000 and whatever that is, then given a mill rate. A few $100s for sure. And but that's something the state can do. Yeah. I doubt that the state is going to do that.
Plus now, this year, we'll be going from 20,000 to 25,000, because it'll be 100% to the 80%. Sorry about the homestead exemption.
Yeah, it's over we haven't been able to, our certified ratio, it's been off because we haven't had a
So it's
revaluation.
like 20,000.
So we could only certify it with percent. So our citizens were only getting $20,000 value of their homestead. So after the reval, that goes back up to 100, everybody goes back up to 25,000.
So that should help any kind of increase if they were to fill that out, which is good for all residents that want to fill it out. Just
And it's possible if the state will increase that 25,000 to 30 or 35, they might very well do that. And they might also increase the earned income tax credit, which goes to renters.
Right, yeah, to help offset.
Those are two things they might very well do in theory.
So the homestead thing, let's say it's $25,000, that means you don't pay tax on your $25,000 evaluation for it. But if you have a $400,000 home, and if they're gonna raise the value to levels like that, then that's not worth.
But it still might help, $300 or $500. Like,
If you remember, 2 years ago or 3 years, the state capped the property tax for senior citizens who applied, who lived in their homes for X number of years, and maybe 10, 9. They capped that. And as long as that person owned that home, the taxes didn't go up.
Is that current state law?
no, they took it out.
The state saw what happens. It's a state reimbursement to the senior. So the communities were being whole.
Yeah.
When the state price tag was gonna be in the out years, they killed.
Yeah, it was
Lasted 1 year.
Yeah, that was Democrat boy.
Yeah, that's one question.
Well, if we went with that idea, I mean, if that was feasible, then you would have to start thinking about how about the people who own the home on the lake and are disabled now. They're not a senior citizen, but now they're disabled and they're making minimum social security. I mean, where would you draw that line? Because that's not fair to them when they're making the same amount as the senior citizen with the same situation. So, you know,
So things are not on, that's not.
it's.
In other places, and some states do it, and some municipalities do it. I don't, but I didn't research Maine specifically, I just.
Yeah.
Figured.
We're just locked through our constitution.
You know, there are some states, I think Florida is one that's plans to do away with.
Yes. Michigan.
So the scale of states are all over.
Sure.
Sales tax. That was good, yeah.
Thank you.
You can pay one way or the other, whether it's through sales tax or income tax. You take one away, they're gonna make one, you know, it's,
They're gonna rob you somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, why not? If
That's how they pay the municipal government. Can't say government. They have.
Some of these funds that you mentioned here have some specific requirements with them, and I'm sure it would take you a long time to go through them all, but maybe that's a good thing to do in the future. Some people have donated these funds,
Yes.
and with specific instructions on what you can do with them and what you can't. And I don't know if they,
most of them say you can only use the interest, at least that's what I hear.
yeah, but I'm not sure if they said anything about what you could invest it in or not. I don't know that.
The only one we can invest in the S&P 500 is one, the Schmaltz gift that the library has. He gave $25,000 and it can't be part of her budget. It has to be above and beyond whatever her budget. And she can have $1,250 a year to buy whatever she wants. She's bought shelving, she's bought office stuff. So,
So you mean to say that.
but that is now worth 47,000. 52, yeah, so that is gained and grown.
So these other ones came with specific guidelines that said you can't invest in.
I don't know that, I know there are some guidelines for some of them.
Well, I was asking
for how many.
Yes, I understand, and she was commenting on that, I think she said the only one we could do was the person.
Let's look up our investment policy. Servers, everything's,
So how about just asking the reserve funds we have, we'd be more aggressive with those, I mean, we have here. $421,000, 50, 30, and add up. $1 million here, so,
yeah,
but, you know, if we were able. We had to change rules a little bit and we did it. They put a difference to us over time.
It is over $1 million. I added them all up with 2,255,000.
That's the interest on that.
50%, right, $100,000. Yeah, it's the.
working cash position, yeah, so we have about 800,000, like cash, available cash if we needed it, we could pull it. The rest is in bonds.
Is that the whole policy?
Securities. Yeah.
Look when it was amended.
No one's looked at this policy. We still have to, I'm going through them one by one, and I'm gonna start bringing them to the council.
securities. And the protection of the investment principal shall be the highest priority. And the rate of return is the second priority.
So was this?
Those first two really.
Yeah, so it basically makes it, yeah. no risk.
You take no risk.
But we could change the policy, the town council could accept the policy, and then we could.
Right.
I just, listen, I'm not trying to argue. I just feel like we need to be innovative. Think out of the box. Cause I don't see taxes going down. I don't see, we have COLAs and everything else here. They're gonna go up every year and insurance ridiculously as it is. I don't see an end to that. So, and at what point are we just. People are going to can't afford it. So that was the point of trying to find some other ways. I had thought possibly some towns. I was thinking also, we talked about having a dump sticker go get picked up at the time you register your vehicle or something like that. That's a good idea if you want one, right? I think some towns charge parking at the boat landing. We probably can't charge to use it, not for citizens. You have a lot of transient folks that come and use the lake. There and if you're a citizen, you register your car, you get a sticker on there, you're fine, you don't pay for that. But if you're out of town folks coming to use the boat landing and so forth, are there ways to?
Who polices that, who?
I don't know, well, figure it out, I mean, people do it,
Work.
yeah, we have to.
I think the problem with that idea is that there was federal money and state money involved. in the
Well,
whole
not charging for the boat landing, you're charging for the parking. It's, and, okay. And, I mean,
Some of that boat landing was paid for by the people that own Green. If you relicense those hydros, they have to put some money in to the public, for something for the public, so they paid a lot for that boat landing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the rules are, but I know they just, as part of their relicensing fee, they had to kick money in to make public access to the lake.
oh, yes, I know you have access.
So I don't know what the rules are, but I think it's a good idea to make some money, but
Put your boat right in there, but you have to pay.
we have to kind of, so we can charge or not, I have no idea.
Well, they go across and use the big park one. Most of the time, you're like 6 or 7 slots for trailers, and the rest of them, so they're not on that road. Go across the way. It's just that.
We're gonna pay that this year. I'm on the same page you are. We're gonna pay, but we have to maintain it. Right, if we can charge people to do it, let's look into it.
And you're just, I mean, we have.
And I think all of this is like an underlying, like, let's maybe try to figure out a way outside the box to generate more revenue to offset what goes up every year.
That's exactly my point.
And a lot of this is stuff that people haven't visited in a while, so
Yeah.
maybe worth revisiting
I just think
or visit it all.
we should all just be thinking caps on and come up with ideas.
As opposed to just waiting the same thing year after year as we've done back and forth.
Jen?
So I used to live in an oceanside town. And we had town landing. And the dump sticker. Can't call it a transfer station, but anyway, from the dump sticker. And the ability to park at town landing without costing anything was dependent on you having a dump sticker. So it covered both things.
Who policed it? Who walked around?
Well, because we had a police officer that was one of the things he did was drive around there and check it out. I mean, the parking lot was just about the same size as ours is.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
people to come to our town that want to use the boat landing wouldn't have to be on a per basis. They could come and say, I'm gonna be using your boat landing, it's $10, it's something. But there's a lot of, I mean, that lake fills up, like they have fishing derbies and all kinds of stuff that go on there. And that's all nice, but they're using our town, they're using our landing, they're using the parking lot and all the things we pay for and maintain. And we don't want to make it prohibitive, but they can either, and it isn't that hard for a busy day for the police officer to run over there. And see who's legal and who isn't.
Yeah, but then, well, who are they paying it to? Do they have to come and pay in advance at town? Towns,
Well, they could process.
Yeah, one of those pay to park.
yeah,
Right,
pay
exactly,
park
like
things
little
that way.
kiosks that you have
Yeah.
at Bar Harbor.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have to charge the ATVs to.
Yeah.
Park and ride.
Yeah, that's
Why? Not to do anything.
They do what?
Right, I mean, we don't have to charge ATV necessarily, I'm just,
You're gonna charge boats?
well, I'm just using an example. We do whatever we want to do, and I think town needs to look at ways to generate some money for all the things we do.
You mean the vehicles that haul the ATVs?
Well, they're building a big parking lot in Fairfield Street,
Right.
so we have to maintain that. Just saying, you can't do it for boats, you gotta do something else.
So you're talking about the parking lot.
Right, but you're talking
The
about
vehicles
the
that park in the
trucks
parking
that
lot.
haul that.
Yeah.
Trucks,
Oh,
okay,
get a high-
yeah, not the four wheelers, the vehicles that haul.
So,
You could easily have a recharge cost. Let you know.
Yeah.
Go down off, pick it up, lower line, get more.
what happens right now? The summer people, they obviously create trash. You know? Like the rest of us do. I mean, what do they do about trash?
They go to the
They get a
transfer
transfer
station, they
station
get a
sticker.
$1 sticker.
Okay, so they get a sticker that they are going to be using for the summer. So
It's
it
a
could be,
seasonal sticker. It's
so it could be
different
the same thing, the same idea that they could buy a seasonal ticket that's a little bit more than what it is right now. Just like the all year round one would be more than it is right now. And it would include both parking at our facilities like over at Wrigley and down at the,
Or you could have a 7-cent.
no, I'm thinking about it's less confusing in general for people if you just have it as one thing.
Yes, not everybody wants it. Kelly. Yeah.
I would say that, you know, they would start.
Kelly,
Using the.
Kelly, I heard someone mention it, and I was also thinking, it sounds like an opportunity for a revenue exploration committee.
Yeah.
Right, here we review the budget, and I think it's good to look at revenue sources. I don't necessarily agree with the ones I've heard tonight necessarily, or with all of them, but I think it's something we definitely need to explore. That's the idea, just stimulate progress. Because there's, right, the legality and.
Yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Anything.
I think the committee ideas are good. It was my idea, that's why.
I'd like to chair that.
You're gonna chair it.
So I will caution you one thing about the dump, or the transfer station. Landfill or whatever we. So now, when I moved across the road, they dumped it was dump. And towns have found. That it's expensive or inconvenient for people to take trash from their tires and get a whole sofa and take it to somewhere. And pay a reasonable amount to get rid of it. It ends up all along my road. Instead. And so there's a careful balance between
Would it be?
charging enough to make sense and charging so much that while you and I may not throw the old sofa on the ditch, there are plenty of people. It's a good point, but it's also. I don't think we need to be ridiculous about it, fine, leave it on the fine there, find the line.
Right.
Speaking of the agenda. But that's
So if there's,
probably the realistic.
if there's nothing else, so we'll plan on Tuesday, 3/3. Do you have any other questions on the budget? Want to add, delete, whatever, we can do that then. Rick will also present that night, and then on the 11th, I'll have to turn around the, well, no, we have a week between, so then I'll get the warrant ready. I'll send that out, we can look at the warrants, and then we'll go. March 11th at the council meeting, which will be at the fire station. Vote on the warrant articles. And then the council will sign it on the 25th. When we have town meeting. Who's done?
The moderator.
We're looking for one.
We put it on MMA and I got one back that said they use their fire chief, the other one uses their pastor, so.
There are no moderators, when the new moderator rate, moderate town meeting.
Sure, much good, was that?
What happened to ours? So,
Nope, he just does the one. Looked at me last year and he goes, this is my last year. I said, okay.
Can you get us some help with this as incomplete as it is?
The whole budget or just